So we got our spicy, sweet spicy, and then just sweet. So we got our mountain fuel.
For when we go on our elk hunt.
Yeah.
Or any backpacking adventure for that matter.
Yeah. Because you just throw them in your bag and they're good.
Yeah, so you're going to probably see these in the future on our channel. What's up, guys? So we're here in the kitchen, and today we are going to make pemmican. This year we have a couple backcountry hunting trips planned, and pemmican is the perfect high-calorie, high-energy, shelf-stable food that we want to bring on some of our outdoor adventures. Pemmican essentially is dried meat in powder form and fat. You could zhuzh it up a little bit with berries, honey, salt, spices. So we're gonna try it two ways. Today we are just starting the first step, which would be rendering the fat. You could buy rendered fat already in the form of tallow, but we decided that we're gonna do our own. When choosing a fat, you do wanna make sure your fat is solid at room temperature, because that's gonna help hold the mixture together and form the bars once you get to that step. So we'll take you along for what we're gonna add in our pemmicans, but we do wanna try a basic recipe and then one that's a little more fancy. So we'll get started. We already picked up the fat from the butcher. Chase already chopped it up in little bite-sized bites, and we're gonna throw it in the pots and start rendering it. Don't eat too many of the crispy bits when the render is done though. You'll get an upset stomach, and they're addicting, and we love them. Note to self.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so here we go. So hopefully all this fat fits into these two pots. We have done a video on rendering bear fat in the past if you want to go check that out, but all right, so it's all in there. So this is a slow process, so you want to cook it on a lower heat. Stirring it occasionally so nothing burns, basically till as much of the fat renders out of these chunks as possible. So it's going to take a few hours.
Give a little update. We're 2.5 hours in here, and this is what we are looking at. Oils are coming out of the fat. It's starting to look good. Got this one going over here. Same thing. Just coming along nicely.
6 hours later, and our tallow. Oh, puppy's coughing in the background. Our tallow, anyways, our tallow is now ready. This is what it looks like. All right, and then we got this all set up.
Cheesecloth.
Strainer and a bowl. And then we're gonna store it in these mason jars till we're ready to finish off the pemmican. Look at all those bits. Our precious girl Marley. She's almost 15 years old. She's still doing good, but we're giving her a lot of extra love lately. And this is Boston. He's 16 now. He's healthy. No issues so far. Just old age issues. A little slow and sleepy. But yeah, those are our babies. All right. Back to the tallow. Well, I figured since she was coughing in the background, I'd give you guys a little peek of the puppies. I'll grab a little container for those beef cracklins. That's what we'll call them. Just pressing out all that extra. So Marley in the background gets extra excited around food, which causes her to cough a lot more. It's about dinner time for her, so she's probably thinking that we're prepping her meal. We got one more to go, but that's how it's done. So there's the leftover crispy bits, the nice rendered tallow, and we got our mason jar. We're just gonna fill that up right now, so we have more room in our bowl to dump our second batch in. Yeah, and continue this till you fill all your mason jars and you're done. I'll show you what it looks like after it solidifies again. it becomes white, actually. So here's what they look like. Back to a solid form. And they're all ready for the next step. So next, we are gonna prepare our meat. We are gonna use moose meat for this pemmican. So what I'm gonna do next is cook it and then throw it in the dehydrator till it's nice and dry. So we got 3 packs of meat, unthawed. They're gonna go in here. So we got the 3 packages in a pan. I'm just gonna break it up a little bit and cook it and start getting some of the moisture out of it before we stick it in the dehydrator. I have seen some people put their raw meat straight into the dehydrator, almost like a jerky. Maybe we'll try that method next, but for now, we cook it and then dehydrate it. So we're still using the Cabela's brand 10 tray deluxe dehydrator. It's been serving us well so far. I've taken out 3 of the trays and just lined them with parchment paper so the meat doesn't fall through. So the meat's done. I'm gonna put it on the trays and get it in the dehydrator.
And putting the last tray in here. Close her up. And we'll turn her on high for at least 12 hours. And we'll check it in the morning and we'll see how it's doing.
So it's been a little over 12 hours and it is now done. We kind of just want it to be really dried out and crumbly. So now we're gonna blend this into a powder. Continuing on, we got our dehydrated moose meat and we are gonna blend it in our Ninja. The meat is now powdered. So our powder is ready to go. We got our beef fat here. You're gonna wanna soften that so it mix into the powder nicely. And then I just pulled a few more other ingredients that we're gonna try, because like I said earlier, we're gonna make it 2 ways, traditional, and then we're gonna try like a sweet and spicy style pemmican. We're gonna be adding some blueberries to our recipes. So you can do your blueberries in the dehydrator like we just did the meat, but lucky for us, our sister gave us some freeze-dried blueberries from BC. So I'm gonna open those up and give them a try. Excited. Very good. Would you look at that? So I'm probably just gonna give these a quick spin in the blender just to make them into a powder, but they taste super good. They're super sweet. It's gonna be awesome, I think. If I don't eat them all first. So since our tallow is in solid form, we're gonna heat that up next. Just softening up the beef fat in a pot. You don't need it too hot. So while the beef fat softens on the oven, I'm just gonna divide the meat into 2 bowls. So the fat's pretty much done. So now that that's divvied up, I just kind of eyeballed it. I'm going to make these blueberries into powder. So for this first batch, I'm gonna do just the traditional meat, fat, and berries. And we're gonna salt to taste. So I'm gonna add that all in now. This was about 2 cups of blueberries, which makes the pemmican quite sweet. Ground into the powder. The fat's now liquid, so I'm gonna add that in next. So they say about a 1-to-1 ratio, but when I did this the last time, it was just a texture thing. You just want the fat to absorb enough into the mixture that it could be pressed into a mold and made into bars or forms. So we'll try this, mix it up and see how it is. Super hard to do with one hand, so I'm gonna put down the camera and give it a good mix. It's all mixed up, and now I'm just gonna add a little salt to taste. So here's what the first batch looks like. We're gonna get this in a mold and pop it in the fridge so it hardens up so we can cut it. For the mold, I just lined this casserole dish with some parchment paper, got the mixture in there. I'm gonna smooth it out And like I said, pop it in the fridge. So batch number 1 is in the fridge, and we're gonna start with pemmican batch number 2. I kind of want like a sweet and spicy flavor profile. I'm gonna be making it up. I'm gonna season to taste and taste test it along the way. Make it how I like it. I must add, when you do add other ingredients in, it does affect the shelf life of the pemmican, especially if you're using nuts. Batch number 2, just the pure meat powder. I am gonna add 2 cups of blueberries, so I'm gonna get those ground up right now. And now I'm gonna add the fat. I might have to melt a little more. Mix it up and see how it is. So this one isn't as oily, but I think it's still gonna be okay because I'm still gonna add some honey. Possibly just won't be as calorie dense. So I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of honey. I'm just gonna melt it down so it mixes in better. So I did end up melting down the honey in this saucepan, and I added a little bit more beef fat. So I'm gonna pour that in now. And again, I'm gonna salt to taste. So this is what I decided on: garlic, onion, pepper, cayenne, and chili flakes. And a pinch of chili. Guess what?
But
Chase is home. Just in time for the taste test.
right on.
So here's the consistency of this one. Seems to be a little bit more sticky, probably from the honey, and a little less fat. So we're gonna pop it in the mold, set it in the fridge, and see how it turns out. All right. These are nice and chilled now, ready to be cut. So this was the first batch. Now we're moving on to the second one. You can see that this one had a little more fat in it. We're gonna finish cutting these up into bars, and then we're gonna food savor them. And then it's time for the taste test. We'll taste the little crumbs that break off. Like right there.
This one, I think we need more fat.
Yeah, not as much fat. This one's a little more calorie dense. Do you like them?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna food savor them. I'm gonna let Chase gather more thoughts about what he thinks about the pemmican.
So I don't know if Ashley videoed the blending of the blueberries.
Mm-hmm.
But of course I had to get all the little powder out. So now I got a purple finger.
No wasting in this house.
Sweet. Almond sweet. This one's sweet too, but it's got the heat at the end. Okay, that's a wrap on our pemmican making. Both of these are a little on the sweet side with the blueberries. We also tried it without the blueberries for a more savory flavor, which we also enjoy too. So you could either have sweet or not sweet, but I'm a blueberry fanatic, so I love sweet. That's a wrap.
Pemmican.
For the win.
So there we have it. Our survival food for the mountains.